this very interesting conundrum because what you've described, what I've described is um, everybody wants the managed vision care plans to value their services more. And what you just described and what I just described was we purely value the services in that model where the widget becomes devalued, not because we wanted to devalue it, but because we can't now bundle all of these other kind of check-ins and follow-ups and everything because it was a high price. They're controlling that price. They're just paying you for the widget itself.
Yep.
Well, I want to do all these other things. Well, guess what? Now I have a mechanism to deliver that care and get paid for that care, whether it's directly from the patient or it's from a managed vision care plan, or in theory, or a medical plan in theory, right? But I get paid for that visit. Now I've driven the value back to my service. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Podcast on iCode Media. Today, Dr. Aaron Warner and I are going to discuss, we talk about a lot of things, but Aaron, and a lot offline, but Aaron reached out to actually Dr. Kyle Clutie and I recently with some frustration over just the challenges that people have with valuing their services and then their services being undervalued. And then they can make it up by having something else that allows them to generate some revenue. And then that gets taken away. And people are obviously frustrated. So that's basically all I know about the conversation. Aaron Warner, thanks so much for coming on. And I guess you and I are really good friends. We just wanted to kind of get people a peek behind the curtain about how we sort of process ideas. So I'll sort of set it up there. As always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, share it with your friends, and support those who support us.
The most common questions I get include, what ophthalmological codes or evaluation and management codes should I use? What ICD-10 codes do I need to bill with this CPT code? What CPT codes can be billed together and what can't? And my favorite, how do I manage a patient who has diabetes who comes in for a quote-unquote routine eye exam? These questions really highlight the confusion and uncertainty that serves as a daunting hurdle for providers, makes it more challenging for them to care for their patients and provide those patients with the best opportunity for a lifetime of ocular health and clear vision. That's why we built iCode Education for this specific purpose. Our mission is to provide optometrists with resources to help you understand disease states, revenue cycles, and billing and coding so that you can put that on autopilot and truly care for your patients. Check out iCodeEducation.com. That's EYECODE education.com. We've developed a premier billing and coding bundle that includes all of our billing and coding resources in one place. We also have a 10% discount code just for listeners of this podcast. Enter the coupon code EYECODEMEDIA22 at checkout. We'd love to work with you. Check out iCodeEducation.com. A question that I hear all the time is, should I be taking an AREDS 2 vitamin? With MacuHealth Plus, we can finally have a formulation that follows science without adding unnecessary ingredients, and we can rely on it to know what is in the container is actually what is labeled on the container. We use it specifically for intermediate AMD patients, and the patients with AREDS 2 data it's the strongest for. And the ability to include mesozeaxanthin allows us to support macular function, not just slow disease progression, although it's good at that. That's why it's become a go-to in our clinic.
Absolutely. Awesome. This is fun. I get to be guest and host, and I guess you put them together, cool. Ghost, right? No, I often, when you and I talk, and with Kyle as well, we say, we should have recorded that. That would have made a really neat conversation, because we bring things to each other. We challenge each other. We agree often, but I think when we don't disagree, but we like to kind of poke holes. And so naturally, one of us ends up playing the devil's advocate just to play devil's advocate, for sake of conversation and diving into it. And so in this case, and this can be applied to a bunch of different things that have happened, within our lifetime in optometry. But in this case, it happened to be around an ophthalmic lens for myopia management that is going on formulary. And And so I had seen on some different Facebook groups and chat groups some frustration that the profitability for that particular product was going to go down because now insurance was picking it up. And whenever you have a third-party payer, they typically are not paying more than your fee-for-service. You're usually contracted to receive less. And I found it interesting that tends to be the first, at least outward response from the optometric community. And I'm not painting all of us with the same brush, but I didn't see any responses going, this is great. Now I have easier access for my patients who need access to this product. In this case, the lens, right? We can say it, whether it's a treatment that was fee for service treatment in the dry eye space or whatnot that now has formulary coverage, but there's not a celebration of patient access. It becomes a frustration because I'm making less money. And I get it. I mean, you and I are in the same boat. I would love to be able to charge my fee for service. I'll be perfectly honest. There's plenty of days where I'm jealous of the Costco doctor who just can charge his fee, get paid cash for fee. Same day, doesn't have to file claims, and can just be honest about what they want, and get what they want, and really value their time because they know the dollar they're getting back for it.
Yeah,
but they also don't have the same access that we do because third-party payers is really marketing. It drives people into the practice. So I thought it was a neat discussion to have, and wanted to see what it was like recording it so people could see behind the curtain. Just what drives us when I'm doing the same amount of work, but now I feel like I'm getting paid less for the product that I'm selling, just what your thoughts are on that, Chris.
Well, I think before we get there, what I think I'd like to unpack with you is if myopia management is existential, which is what we've been hearing from all the experts for the last 6-7 years, really not even that long. Really, it's been probably, you've heard these again. Really, like we have. I'll just take a step back. I did a monologue about atropine.
Okay.
And this is just a classic. Sorry, Aaron. We're probably going to get in trouble for this conversation. When Synexis got, and I'm going to use names. I don't. This is not me bad mouthing anybody, but the reality is when Synexis ran up against a problem with the FDA, meaning that they had to go back in, do some more research. They didn't get their approval. Everybody, and I mean everybody that was a myopia manager, was posting here and posting there. This is an injustice. And, I guess we could probably go back and point, I don't want to hash my whole monologue about it out, but the reality is that mostly because we need, you hear these people, we need FDA approved atropine for patients who have myopia. And I think, really? Do we? We have good sources of atropine. We have good sources of atropine that work. And so do we really need an FDA approved one? Do I think it'll be less expensive? I don't, actually. I think it would be more expensive. We saw that with, and I made the case, we saw that with cyclosporin. We had a very widely available compounded cyclosporin that was really effective and was set at a price where most people, if everything else isn't covered, could afford it. And then I won't say it's the same formulation because the company says it's not, but a similar, or a formulation, I'll say that, gets FDA approved. And now guess what? That option's off the table. It's gone. It doesn't even exist. And now that means that everybody's price went up, call it even $10, $20, whatever the minimum threshold, it went up. And it went up a lot at first, and now it's sort of come down a little bit. But I say all that to say that if it is good and it is as existential that we have options for myopia management, then we should want as many of those options widely and broadly covered as possible. So the fact that that's happening, and this is not me being an apologist for a managed vision care company, but the fact that they've recognized the value of myopia management and allowing that to be provided through a practice is a good thing. First, because it allows patients to access that service. And second, it's a good thing because now you're removing a barrier to cost challenges with that intervention. And so I guess I'll pause there and get your reaction on that.
So I think that it's interesting that often we feel we need permission to do something that's already within our scope. And so you brought up the Signexis and the atropine, right? Nobody said we can't use atropine. It's just now an FDA approved product, but we've been using atropine already, right? So is it a potentially a stumbling block for something that's that would help, maybe create more access, maybe create some patients to feel more comfortable by having a quote FDA approved product available? But it's not like we couldn't get it already and we weren't already doing it. And quite frankly, you had arguably more control because you could adjust the percentages in a compounded formulation. So you could make patient-specific adjustments as necessary. And we use lots of different pharmaceuticals off-label. We use lots of different products off-label. There's plenty of evidence to show that it's good, so it's not the Wild West. We just don't always need the stamp of FDA approval. We were doing myopia management well before we had an FDA-approved product for myopia management. Having one is helpful, but it's not the end-all be-all. It didn't stop the non-FDA approved treatment therapies that had a good history and had good evidence behind it. It just added another therapy to it. And quite frankly, to your point, it increased the price, right? When MySight came out, that was not an inexpensive product. And to the patient, it was a premium contact lens, and it was priced as a premium contact lens. Still is. So it's, and it works. We use it all the time in the office. But it limited access because now you're saying only people in patients that have the financial means can access that care when you don't have assistance. So part of the optometric community said, this is ridiculous. We want some, if it's a disease, we need coverage of it. We need help. And then you start getting coverage and having it added to formularies. And now you get what you asked for. It just, now it hit the pocketbook, which is not what we asked for. But in reality, when you're asking for a third party to pay, that's part of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's the first thing I would say is that it's a good thing for patient access and it's a good thing for patients. The second part of that is, the other kind of the point that you initially asked was, well, how do we view a service versus my loving words, a widget? And, everybody, so again, like everybody gets frustrated because they want their services valued appropriately. And then when a new widget comes along that allows them to have some sort of cash pay option because it's a non-covered service, they get really excited about that widget. And then they're okay undervaluing their service because they can make it up on the widget sale. And that's where I think people are really frustrated with this in particular, is because they look at it as a covered option, which means their reimbursement, their ability to make up for the difference in their profitability that they were, already losing revenue on their service, they can make up for it by selling the high dollar widget. That can't happen anymore. And so, my where it won't happen anymore, and it won't happen as often, because once one managed vision care plan pays for it, the other one will start paying for it, and then the other one will pay. So is it a race to the bottom? Probably. Yeah, it probably is. And my response to that is, what's really different? I talked to some people. I'll talk to some people within Essilor. There's no non-disclosure that I think I'm under, but I think. But
We'll find out quick if it is.
We'll find out quick. I think so. This was a while ago, so the cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows what their approach is, but they wanted my opinion about how people should look at, when Stellus first came out, how people should look at bundling the sale of the widget along with offsetting some costs of some professional service. And then charging a global fee and all these sorts of things. And it just gets weird, man. Like, people just do weird things. And so what was, like, in this case, what was weird about it is, like, all right, well, we have a lens. We know how to fit a lens. We know how to measure PDs. We know how to adjust the frame. I mean, presumably we do. Like, presumably our practices have that ability, and it's outside the purview of the optometrist. In fact, I would tell you that if you're asking me to adjust your frames and measure your PD in my practice, like, I'm the wrong guy doing it, 100%. And I would say that in most practices that I know, if you ask the optometrist to do that, It's the wrong person, right?
It's like asking the doctor to start the IV. I want the nurse to start it that does it 100 times a day. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And so, but there was sort of this like allusion to that where like, hey, Chris, what do you think about if we do this? And then the doctor kind of checks in, you build that check-in price into it's like, no, like if I'm worried about myopia and I'm worried about their progression, I really need to see them back in 2 weeks or in a month to make sure their glasses are adjusted. Well, I better have my opticians really well trained so I don't have to do it. But if I do have to do it, then I'm managing a disease state. I'm managing myopia. I'm managing axial elongation, whether there's a ICD-10 code that's a medical diagnosis or there isn't. There's a fee-for-service model that we have available to us. If I want to look at axial length and I want to micromanage a patient because I think it's clinically beneficial to monitor the axial elongation every single month, if I wanted to. Again, I'm going to the furthest reach, but that's not what they were advocating for. But let's even say it's every 3 months or every 6 months, and I thought that was appropriate. I have a mechanism for it, and so like bundling all this stuff just was weird, and so. That is one thing that I think is a challenge is like, okay, so the service is devalued or the widget is now devalued. But if I think it's clinically appropriate to see that patient every 3 months, I have 9.9 codes, I have 9.2 codes. I have if I have an axial measurement, if I would need to do a refraction, guess what? I can bill for all of those services.
Yep.
And if it takes me 5 minutes or 10 minutes or like, that doesn't take very long. I mean, I can look at an axial measurement. I can look at VAs and even determine, do I really need a refraction? No, I can check VAs. I mean, I can have a patient check VAs, do an axial measurement, pop in and say, hey, for 2 minutes. How's everything going? Everything looks great. We're gone. Like we're done. That's where I think people need to be thinking about this stuff. And is that covered? No, it's not. It's not covered by, it might be covered by a medical payer if there's some sort of other disease state that you're managing by trying to control the axial length. But we have a mechanism that we don't have to like worry that, hey, I just had this shiny object, now that's whittled away, and I bundled all the cost of that in there. Forget about that. If you're efficient with your time, let's just call it a 99212. Well, it doesn't matter who's paying for this. It doesn't matter to me. And an axial length measurement, just call it $50 and a $50 refraction. If I had to do that every 6 months, and let's say it took me 10 minutes of my time, so 99212 plus, so you're talking probably 100 and we'll just say for easy math, let's call it $150. Reasonable?
Yeah.
So call it $150 for 10 minutes. Can I deliver that service in 10 minutes? If I do that 6 times an hour, that's $900 an hour. I don't care about the sale of the widget. But I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. I don't know if I went too deep, too fast, Aaron, but
no, I think
these are sort of my reactions to it.
No, I love what you said. And sometimes when you talk to somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and has a very clear outcome, whether it's this or in baseball, it helps to go back and unpack a little bit. So it's been a while, but when did I first have you audit my office? Has it been close to 10 years?
It's been a while. Yep.
It's pre-COVID. So,
yep.
And that put me, I know, like before COVID and after COVID, but, that put me on a journey to learn what I didn't know. Right. And I think that I was probably a very typical optometrist before that was very clinically aware and savvy, but this billing and coding world, I just put some stuff in and my AHR gave me some numbers, but I didn't fully understand the rules of the game to play the game appropriately. So I could drive the car. I just couldn't fix the car if a check engine light came on. I had to take it to the mechanic because I threw my hands up and I didn't know. And whatever the mechanic said, I did, as an analogy. But learning the rules of the billing and coding game and what those rules all entail, working with you and, what I've understood is this, it's very simple, right? It's, you have a disease state that you've diagnosed at your comprehensive exam, right? And the comprehensive exam may or may not have a third party paying for it. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, great. But we do our routine there. And then whether it's glaucoma, whether it's AMD, whether it's myopia, I don't particularly care what the ICD-10 is classified as, whether it's a refractive diagnosis or a medical diagnosis. That's just a bucket somebody, a third-party payer has put it into. So in this case, it's myopia, right? Well, let's compare myopia and glaucoma, and then please correct me if I'm wrong down this, because this is the journey that I've learned through you. I say, hey, you have a condition we need to address. You're going to come back, and I'm going to take time to fully address it. And then at that visit, I have a visit code, and then I have a additional diagnostics code. So if I'm doing glaucoma, I'm going to run a visual field. I'm going to do gonioscopy. I'm going to do a macular OCT. If they have myopia, I'm going to do biometry. Okay. And I have a code for those, and each of those codes has a usual and customary that I've assigned to them for the value that I think is worth in the office. And then I have the visit code for them, and I bill appropriately. So somebody doesn't come back for a glaucoma visit in my office, or a myopia visit in my office, or a dry eye visit. They're just coming back for a medical visit. Now we'll make a note on the chart so we kind of get in that mindset, but the application of what we're doing doesn't change. And then when I initiate treatment, let's say I put the glaucoma patient on drops, and I put the myopia patient in a Stellus lens, and I'm going to see you back in 2 weeks. Well, the drops I'm doing an IOP check, right? There's really nothing else I can do in 2 weeks to see. Just, hey, is it kind of working how we're going for?
Side effects, any problems?
Side effects, right?
Yeah.
And nobody questions what we're doing. And by the way, nobody bitched that I didn't make money selling the glaucoma drops. I just sent that to the pharmacy. So when they're coming back with the Stellus lens, I'm doing the same thing. Hey, are you wearing it as appropriate? Are you using it like you're supposed to? Is it fitting appropriately?
Yep.
Right? Did you crash your bike and now you've got all sorts of like mangles? Is the alignment how it's supposed to be? Are you good? Do you have any concerns? Both of those are 5-minute visits at most. Most offices probably end up 30 because that's how we book, but they should only be a 5-minute visit to check in. And to your point, level 2 alone.
Well, it might be a level 3. Honestly,
it could be a level 3.
It's probably a level 3. But I use level 2 just as let's look at the lowest level.
It's $100 visit, right? So let's go high end of level 2, low end of level 3. Right. It's a $100 visit for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If I do no additional testing, and I shouldn't, say I don't need to at that one, right? That's a very profitable use of my time. And then if I've got a glaucoma patient who, because I don't know of anybody who says, hey, you have glaucoma, it's going to be $2,000 a year, right? If you're controlled and you use the medicine, I'm going to see you less, and I'll probably get to the point where I see you maybe twice a year, right? Once for your routine that I check refraction and all the other stuff, and then once that I'm really managing the glaucoma. Well, myopia can be the same way. Or if I have the glaucoma patient who's non-compliant, I might see you I might see you every month if we're trying to chase something down and figure it out. So the cost is not in what I think from a global standpoint. It's what's the work that I'm doing, and what's the work are we doing patients together. And I guess what frustrates me in the myopia space, and sometimes even in the dry eye space, is, we pulled in these global fee structures that never had a place in our world to begin with, and disrupts the process that we already had in place that worked really well.
Yeah. We're going to get a lot of hate for that, honestly.
I'm probably. My email is going to be in the show notes.
Yeah. It's just it's this very interesting conundrum, because what you've described, what I've described is everybody wants the managed vision care plans to value their services more. And what you just described and what I just described was, we purely value the services in that model, where the widget becomes devalued, not because we wanted to devalue it, but because we can't now bundle all of these other kind of check-ins and follow-ups and everything, because it was a high price. They're controlling that price. They're just paying you for the widget itself. Well, I want to do all these other things. Well, guess what? Now I have a mechanism to deliver that care and get paid for that care, whether it's directly from the patient, or it's from a managed vision care plan, or in theory, or a medical plan in theory, right? But I get paid for that visit. Now I've driven the value back to my service. The challenge, it's like my service is being undervalued. So I'm going to lump all my services into this global fee, and so that it's not undervalued. And then the widget becomes undervalued and I don't know what to do anymore. Well, it's really easy. It's exactly what you described.
Do you think, from a psychology standpoint, I'm going to be really provocative now, do you think that we are projecting the undervaluing of our services onto the managed care company when really we're undervaluing the services ourselves? And what I mean by this is you come to me, a patient comes in and sty, right? Ternohoriolum. Patient comes in, I see it from across the room. I already know what I'm going to do. Really don't have to do any other tests. Be like, oh, does that hurt? Okay, right. And I'm going to check pressures because I'm going to write you Toberdex, and tell you to go do warm compresses.
And the patient has MGD that they haven't been taken care of.
because they're back there, right?
Yep.
So it's clearly level 4. We can argue about
Yes.
We can not argue about
No,
it. We can
there's no arguing.
walk through later.
I mean,
right?
we're going to have some people that, great,
Yeah.
you can reach out to us. We'd love to help you understand why it's level 4.
Clearly level 4, right? That you can diagnose on a telehealth with a picture, right? And I'm not going to go down that path, but it's super easy. That should take you longer to call in or write the Toberdex prescription than it should do the rest of the visit. Like the charting on that one takes longer than the visit, and you get paid a level 4. And a significant amount of friends and colleagues that I've talked to have said, but I can't charge that because it only took a matter of time. And so we've devalued ourselves, right? Now so if the insurance company is going to pay us $500 for that, I'm using a big number to be facetious, we'll take it. I would never charge a patient $500 because it was so easy.
Well,
because
that's the
we've
problem.
we've devalued ourselves. However, I have no problems walking out and selling a patient the most expensive frame I have in the optical with the most expensive pair of lenses because it's something they can touch and hold and it's tactical and there's value to this piece of plastic or metal where my IP, my internal knowledge, my expertise, I believe we struggle to assign value to that.
I feel like you and I have these conversations all the time, but
that's why I said we should record
it's
one.
so true. No, I think it's so true that like we get undervalued. So we look at how much our managed vision care plans will tell us or will pay for us. And then we think that's just an injustice. But then you look at like, okay, well, a patient calls my office and says, I want a comprehensive exam and refraction. And there's these like this back and forth. Well, I can't tell them what my usual and customary, if I'm charging what like my highest payer will pay, I can't tell them that because they'll go down. I'm worried that I'll have to go, they'll go down the street to some other place and get it for $100. So I can't charge them full price. I need to discount it. And then you think, well, but even if it's Blue Cross Blue Shield or Aetna or any like non-Medicare, like imagine like a payer that pays you higher than Medicare, that is still a discount. I mean, they when Blue Cross Blue Shield comes and says, Chris, we're going to pay you this percentage of 1 point whatever X of Medicare rates. We want you to take this. They think they're getting a deal, but I think like, well, I could never charge a patient cash for that much. So I won't. I'll discount it to them. It's like, well, it's like, but I guess to answer your question, yes, I think that there's this race to the bottoms where as long as another payer wants to pay me more than the managed vision care plan, I really hate the managed vision care plan payment. But I would never charge a patient. I'm not saying not, many of us will, but many of us have this internal struggle because we think, I couldn't charge a patient $200 for a red eye, for a sty, or $150. I couldn't do that, but they're not going to want to pay for that. Or if we apply this to myopia, so I want to see that patient back in 3 months after we dispense, we have them come back, meet with the optician, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to see them back in 3 months. And I think it's clinically appropriate to do a 992, we'll just call it 1-2, a refraction and an axial length measurement. And I'm going to charge them because the only diagnosis code I have is H5213. And then the only one that's going to pay for that service again is going to be the patient because they've already used their benefit in their managed vision care plan. And I'm going to ask them for $150 when they come in. Well, yes, you will ask them for that because did you provide value for them? Were you able to titrate them? Maybe you needed to make an adjustment to their glasses. Maybe they're actually, but if it's really, I'm just checking in on them because I want them to feel good about it, and I've bundled that check in with the sale of a widget, then I really need to see them. Those are really valuable. And that's where I think the internal struggle comes. Or what am I going to do differently? That's the other thing is, okay, well, let's say they keep progressing. How much is too much? Have you gone through that? Have you gone through that? Like where you're comfortable? Is it zero progression that I'm going to be okay with? Or am I going to be comfortable now? I'm going to have to say, Mrs. Smith, Shelley here is progressing even with her stellus lens. So we're going to need to add atropine. And that's going to be another $50 a month, $40 a month, whatever it is. And I want to see that. I think most of us probably won't adjust, treatment. So I say all that to say that, like, when you're asking that patient for the payment, you need to know that, like, I've given you value. Even if the value is to say everything is stable, that's value. And if the value is this isn't stable, we need to make some adjustments in whatever that means, then that's value. But you have to believe that that's value.
Yep. Parents often ask whether a daily disposable lens can really slow myopia progression. Well, with MiSight One Day, the answer is yes. And that's why it's one of our most used options for our young myopes. Kids adapt quickly, comfort's excellent, and compliance stays high because it's a daily lens. In my practice, that reliability is what allows us to confidently build long-term myopia management plans for our patients. Check it out for yourself. MiSight One Day. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed and start running a safer, more profitable practice, here's the next step. First, book a strategy call with us, Practice Performance Partners. We'll uncover the biggest risks and opportunities in your practice. Then, choose the package that fits your goals. From there, we'll get you launched with confidence, with clear systems, with expert support, and with peace of mind knowing your practice is protected and set up to grow. Don't wait until something goes wrong. Book your strategy call with us, Practice Performance Partners, today.
And that's where I think that, and I don't know where it comes from, and I could be completely wrong. So, but
You're not.
I get the
You're not
sense
for many
that
people. You're not wrong.
We don't believe that we own the authority in the room. If we're being really honest, nobody will ever stand up front in the room and say this, but, and I've found myself doing it even still sometimes more, where I'll find myself talking to a patient and over talking because I'm feeling the need to justify. I'm feeling and I hide it behind I'm educating, I'm explaining, right? But those are all BS comments that I can rationalize to myself. But I'm trying to justify my value because I don't think you have this, we're doing that is good enough. And that comes from within. Because when I do think, and quite frankly, some of my staff members are like, you were in there for 10 minutes, you were in there for 5 minutes. Right. And they walked out. How do you do that? You didn't get a chance to talk to them and know them. I said, because they came in with a problem. I solved it. We're done. Right. And it's not the quickness of how I solved the problem or the time question. It's did he solve it or not? In fact, sometimes solving it faster is even more valuable than somebody who solves it slower. And we'll pay more to get an express train than we will for a train that, is going to have multiple stops because it gets me there faster. But I think it's not a patient issue; it's an us issue, and somewhere along the way, we can blame school. We can go back and blame the cartoons my parents put me in front of the TV that said I didn't see my value enough. But I almost feel like at some point we need the Cool Runnings moment where we're standing in front of the mirror and repeating to ourselves, I see pride, I see power, I see can't swear on this, but mother who don't take no crap from no one, right? Because we are doing amazing things.
Looking in the mirror and saying, I am good enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
That's probably more optometric friendly. Yeah.
So I think Aaron, we can right now. I kind of listen to and I know your heart. I know what we're struggling with is it sounds like we're blaming people. Like we're blaming like you guys do this, you shouldn't do that. I think what we're really expressing is like this internal struggle because I struggle with this stuff. And the only way that I can come over it is deep down I know that it's not true. Deep down I know that like with ebbs and flows of time that I'm giving to patients, that will over time, if I'm committed to them and the best care delivery I can give to them, and I'm being accessible to them, that will build the relationship that I'm looking for. And in a prior episode, we talked about an event versus an entry point. If my exam is an event that happens once every 18 to 24 months, then or 36 months, only when a patient has a change in their prescription, then I do have to spend a lot of time building a relationship so that patient wants to come back when they have blurry vision again and need new glasses. But if if my if my comprehensive exam is an entry point and I'm having common touch points with that patient that might be 5 minutes or might be 15, depending on what they need at that specific time, then the relationship is built over the duration of time. And so then pretty soon it doesn't matter if to your point, it's like, I don't need to explain this to prove my worth and to prove my value, because internally I'm like you. I feel the same way. It's like, I need to explain this a lot so that you believe what I'm going to say and so that you understand that I understand what I'm doing, where they already know that. They assume that you understand. And so I can diagnose you in 5 minutes. And then the patient's like, well, how's your kids doing? It's like, oh, they're doing great. We're doing this, this, and this. I'm going to see you in whenever, a month, and we'll catch up more or whatever. Like, the point is that I don't feel bad because I got to rush to the next patient when that 5 minute check comes back in, because I've built the relationship with them, and they don't feel bad either because they knew that they just had a problem that they needed to get solved. Or if we're talking about the chronic care of myopia, internally, I think, well, do I really need to spend a half hour with these patients? I mean, that's where the biggest problem I see is in order to do what we're talking about, you have to have a flexible schedule. And if we think about our schedules in blocks of time as every 30 minutes or even every 20 minutes, or that I'm going to be derailed by seeing a patient that needs to be worked in, where my brain power takes less than 5 minutes to answer that problem, but I can't figure out a way to get those patients in, then that's a real problem, and it actually detracts from some of the relationship over time to the patient.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Great
I
point.
think, yeah, I think that it is internal, and it is how we're, partly how we're trained. It's partly, we do want to prove I'll say it for myself. I want patients to believe that I understand what I'm talking about. So I will over explain because of that. And the more time I have, the more I will over explain. But if I can control my schedule where my time is shortened and shortened, it's much more, hey, Mrs. Smith, how's things going? How's your daughter? How's so and so? My kids are doing great. This is what's going on. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to see you back here. And I can be way more efficient if I have to be.
I like that. Well put. And thanks for calling out, because I definitely don't want to come across. I'm very passionate, but I don't want to come across as blaming us.
No, and I don't. You don't. But it can be easy. It can be easy for us to be preachy.
Yeah.
But the reality is we have these internal struggles.
Yep. And honestly, it's my biggest frustration comes. It's the same one I have with my kids. It's the same one I have when I coached high school wrestling. I see something within somebody that they're just not seeing within themselves sometimes. And it's right there, right? And the frustrating part is when you see somebody who is the expert, knows what they're doing, is clinically sound, but just is lacking that, in this case, little bit of confidence and almost ego, right? There's got to be a little bit of an appropriate, not arrogance, but confidence, right? And when you see somebody struggling, and then they assigned their value to, did I sell them the widget, right? How do I manage dry eye is determined by how many IPLs I sold. How I'm managing myopia management is determined by how many, Stellus lenses or MySight contacts or whatever it is, right? We're assigning the value to the widget in a sale than to the knowledge and the service we're providing. And if I can just help people, because I went through this, shift that, right? I'm happier. There's a better work-life balance. I don't feel like my day is measured by what was on the collection sheet that day. Because quite frankly, if I've got a strong day where I'm helping a lot of people, I'm not going to see those dollars probably for 60 days.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not that immediate,
there's
I
no
sold.
dopamine.
Yep. And so I shift my dopamine on how many people I helped that day, knowing that if I've got all the billing and coding done correctly, that money's going to come in. Right. And, but if it stops at, well, I sold just this, then it can be a very dangerous game to play. And quite frankly, most of us don't fully understand the profit margins there, because sometimes what we believe is a big profit in an optical sale, if it's through managed vision care, depending on who the payer is, we may be farcing ourselves, and you think you had a couple $100 in profit and you walked away with $20. We teach another course that with Alex Martin, where we look at, and actually Brad Baergo's done a lot of work with this, the profitability. And I've almost yet to find a situation where selling a second pair of glasses at 50 or even 60% off was not more profitable than the first pair that went through managed vision care, just by following the math. And, but that's not how we think. We think, I got the big care, the big sale. And so we've kind of aligned we've chosen what is going to give us that dopamine hit. And so a little bit of realignment there, can help us not feel that burnout.
I mean, I think if I'm a listener and I was frustrated by some of these policies, believe me, I'm frustrated by it too. I don't like these things being capped. That's not the point. The point is like, if I were going to get a listener kind of more in line where they can, to your point, is like feel okay about it. It's like, all right, well, this is what you have right now, and this is this situation. Now you got to look at like, what services are you providing? How efficiently can you provide those services for that follow-up for myopia management? What is that going to look like? This is how we build pillars, right? So I'm going to dispense. So first of all, the question is, can I actually prescribe and dispense this widget from a comprehensive exam? I would say yes. It's a pair of glasses. It's not significantly more unique than a progressive lens in the sense of measurements and education, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be that long. Hey, great news. I've got a new prescription, little Johnny is nearsighted. In the past, all we could do is keep giving him stronger and stronger lenses. But now we have a lens that can not only make him see clearly, but can slow down that progression so he's not changing as rapidly. So Sally's going to help you with this, and I'm going to see you back in 3 months or 6 months. Doesn't matter, right? And then in 6 months, this is what's going to happen, right? And you just build that out. And guess what? That 6-month visit, like we said, okay, well, how much time am I going to need for that 6-month visit? What do I need to know on that visit? What's the minimum information I need to know whether Johnny is stable or not stable? And if he's stable, and how long is that going to take? And the real critical question is, if he's not stable, do I know what the next steps are? And I can build that out. So if that is 5 minutes of time, then I can easily see little Johnny in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is. And now all of a sudden, like, okay, well, I didn't make a lot of money on Johnny's glasses like I was hoping for. But when Johnny comes back in 6 months, I'm going to give him expertise. And that's what I would encourage people who are frustrated about this, is to actually think through it and think about where are the touch points that you need to make to feel confident in your clinical, in Johnny's clinical progress, and deliver value there, and know exactly how you'll titrate his treatment. If you do that, you're going to drive value back to your services, be confident about what that looks like, and then you can just take care of the patient, right? You just got to take care of the patient now, and you don't have to worry about how much money did I make. And on the other side of it, to your point, is the profitability of that service is so much higher than most people think, because the dollar value is not the delta dollar value is not huge, but the cost on that service can be almost zero.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because you've already got sunk costs. I mean, I know there are costs, but it can be almost zero. And but we just need to think about it that way. And if we're not thinking about it that way, that's where we get frustrated, because we lump all our value into the widget.
Yeah. By the way, there's even opportunities now for to recognize that relationship that you've talked about, right? G2211.
Yeah.
Doesn't get brought up in the myopia management discussions, but there's a code.
I don't know why not.
Because we don't want to charge the patient
because
and only the
insurance won't pay
for
for it, and we don't know. Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest. So no, I think that this is I think conversations like this. So you ask the question if somebody's listening to this, right, and they're thinking, and we've got the brains turning, and after they fired off how they disagree with me on something I said, email what do we do? And I believe that this is a constant journey, and you have to have the right community to help you with this. Unless you're, and I've got mad respect for guys like you who, sit and read the manuals. I tried, they put me to sleep. They're great. I can't wake, when I wake up at 2 a.m. reading, but it takes a community. And because you've got expertise, Kyle's got expertise that I lean into, and collectively we can get to a place where we're much better off than we are independently. And there's too much, especially if you own a practice, to try to do it all by yourself. And so for us, the Vision Source plays a huge role in that community. PPP and the experts that we have through Practice Performance Partners, use them all independently when you guys were all independent. Now as one, it makes it even easier. But you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to help and find the right people that can help you. Just like we ask patients to come find us when we can help them. I don't want somebody trying to treat their eye infection by themselves or, guess what over-the-counter readers they should use. Come in. We'll do it quick. And your time spent with me, your money spent with me is going to give you a bigger return than you trying to spend all that on your own. And so I see that as the community. And I guess the hard part for me is when you see people burnt out and frustrated, and it's because it doesn't have to be like that at all. It's going to be tough. I'm not saying it's unicorns flying over rainbows, pooping Skittles all day long, but you like that image?
Yeah, I do.
But part of the when it gets tough, that's part of what makes the journey exciting. It's overcoming those toughness and continuing to evolve, continuing to manage, because then it's not about, hey, I sold a pair of glasses. It's about, hey, I get to high five Johnny because his myopia stayed the same over the last 2.5 years that we've been working together, or it progressed only a little bit, right? And mom is bringing her whole family because she trusts the office. And we now have a long-term relationship for that patient because I'm billed appropriately. The money's coming in because I've got the time part of that structure, which, by the way, I'm really looking forward to at the user meeting with you guys, looking at just time structuring, because that's one area we want to improve in the office. But really just, it's not hopeless, but it's not something you have to fix overnight either. I don't need to go and increase all my fees by 500%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can incrementally work to make this better and incrementally shift where I'm getting the dopamine.
Aaron, I think this is probably the best place to wrap it up, because, and I'm gonna knock this out of the park. So Aaron's bringing up some points about a few things. First, what we've discussed is what's commonly called comprehensive optometry simplified. That's what we talk about when we're trying to help people build systems. I truly believe that when you've built an effective system, whether it's for myopia management or macular degeneration or glaucoma or dry eye, you stop focusing on the outcome of selling a widget, and you start focusing on the outcome of taking great care of patients. It helps you refocus your success back on the patient. And it's not your fault that you've focused on, the outcome of selling the widget. The things we've talked about today are exactly the mentality that we're trying to push back against internally, but also we see it externally in our clients, where they've put so much emphasis on a high ticket item that they lose sight of, what do I have to do to take care of this patient? And it's not because they're bad people, but that's what building a protocol is all about. And so you can apply those COS steps to myopia. So what Aaron's talking about is October 29th and October 30th in Grapevine, Texas. We are having an AMD. It's modeled after COS, but it's basically, we'll talk about from everything from supplements to photobiomodulation. And we'll help you build an entire process so that if you want to go out and do high level AMD care, you can do that. We'll put the registration links in the show notes for that meeting. That's open to anybody. If you've never done business with Practice Performance Partners, you don't even, you're just sort of hearing this, you can come on board and you can be there. It's no CE. We are going to have real talk, but you will walk away with a system to implement into your practice that both values the widgets that you use, but also the services that you're providing to your patients. And it allows you to refocus on patients. The other portion of that is our PPP, our annual PPP Pro user meeting, which is on Friday, October 30th. So you can stay for both. If you're a Pro member, you'd stay for both. And we're going to be updating, your compliance. We're getting that out of the way. It's not sexy, but it needs to be done. We will go through billing updates and strategies to help get you closer to the value that you deserve, right? So to Aaron's point, one of the things that people automatically think about is, well, I can't increase my fees by $100 or $200, but if we can even get you $10 closer to what others value your services at, that's a huge win. And then the other point is going to be scheduling refinement. So, can you go from 15 to 50 patients a day? No, you can't do that. But can you go from 15 to 17? Can you find 2 new opportunities? So just bear with me. I know this is the end. And maybe we should have Skylar take this and put it at the beginning. But what's really interesting to me is I've done this math. If you planned for 2 additional patients that were, I'll call it 99213, G2211, and a field. So you just figure out a way to see 2 more of those patients with those services a day. If you're an average practice that generates $450 per OD hour, and you add those 2 services based on Medicare rates, your average revenue per OD hour jumps $50 for those 2 patients for the entire day. So you go from $450 an hour to $500 an hour by those 2 patients. And what I just described can be done in less than 15 minutes. So the point is that that's the kind of practical application that we're trying to do in that user meeting, so that we can get incremental improvement, so that 1, you keep enjoying your practice, and 2, when I talk to people that say, I can't see any more, I'm booked out until November, I can't see any more patients, and I can't find an associate, we will help you find ways to do it. So anyway, shameless plug. You should go to find the links in the show notes. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to work with you. We have limited spots, so you want to jump on quickly. Aaron Warner, thanks for doing this, man.
Of course,
appreciate it.
Appreciate you.